And hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez with the next generation of news. This is a conversation. It's not a speech, and it is your turn to get involved. There is a major development on the story that we first brought you, one that got a ton of response from all over the country after together we watched a courtroom deputy in Maricopa County, Arizona, flaunt the laws of privacy and the U.S. Constitution. Let's watch it again. We are talking about Deputy Adam Stoddard, to which that arrow is pointing to. You see the attorney. She's addressing the courtroom. He's looking at her file, her private file that she's using to defend her client. He signals for another one of the court officers to come over to him. He does. And then he says, look what I just saw here in her file. Opens her private file, takes out a document, and he's about to instruct him to take the document and leave the courtroom with it. And there he goes. All this without the attorney seeing it. She makes a quick turn, realizes something's going on, but it's not until her client says to him, they just took something right out of your file, that she turns to the judge and says, Your Honor, this isn't right. Well, here's the news. Deputy Stoddard, despite being defended by Sheriff Joe Arpaio, has now been found in contempt of court and is being made to apologize publicly to the attorney whose documents he stole. So says a judge. But here's where this case gets even more bizarre. The Arizona Republic is now reporting that the deputy's boss, embattled populist antagonizer Joe Arpaio, is telling the deputy not to obey the judge's order. He is telling the deputy not to apologize. The judge says without an apology, he will send the deputy, Stoddard, to jail. What a turn of events. Sylvia Pinheiro Vasquez is a criminal defense attorney who has also worked as a prosecutor and has been closely monitoring this case for us. First, let me ask you what you make of the judge's order telling this deputy that he was in contempt of court and that he's going to have to publicly apologize to this lawyer.
Good afternoon, Rick. Quite frankly, it's a very light punishment for what he did. He's basically been told that if you apologize, you can walk away scot-free despite having violated the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution, despite having violated attorney-client privilege. She's giving him a light sentence.
And yet, despite that, we are now hearing that Sheriff Arpaio is instructing his deputy to disobey, essentially, this judge's order. He says, I'm the only one who can decide who's going to apologize in my department, and I'm telling him not to apologize.
Not only that, he's saying, and I quote from the press release, Superior Court judges do not order my officers to hold press conferences. Clearly, Sheriff Arpaio thinks he's above the law. He has deliberately said he's not going to follow a judge's direct order and is flaunting the fact that he's not going to follow it.
Well, but let me ask you a question here. Is he right in any measure? I mean, does a judge tell a police officer what to do in this case? Well, or does she have to go through his boss, who I imagine she probably has some kind of relationship with?
Well, in this case, the person who was held in contempt of court was obviously not the sheriff, but Officer Stoddard. So she has jurisdiction to tell Officer Stoddard what his punishment is once he was found. I'm sorry, it's Judge Donahue, once he was found in contempt of court. Having been found in contempt of court, she can order whatever punishment she deems or he deems appropriate. In this case, it was a public apology, a press conference, or go to jail on December 1st.
Have you ever, in all your years as a prosecutor or as a defense attorney, seen anything akin to this?
Never. Absolutely not. This was, imagine it the other way around. Imagine a defendant going into a state attorney's document and stealing paper from the state attorney's file.
You mean a prosecutor were in court and she was trying to present the evidence against somebody who was accused of committing a crime, and one of their family members got up in court and started rifling through their file and started stealing stuff?
Can you picture that? Can you picture in any courtroom a judge ordering just a public apology? Most likely that person would have been taken into custody, would have had to bond out of jail, would have probably been charged with theft, and other charges. In this case, basically what the officer has been given is a slap in the wrist. Apologize and walk away scot-free.
Well, is it final question? I'm just curious. Where does something like this go? Could the judge, because his superior, this officer's superior, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, is telling him, no, you will not apologize and you will not obey that judge's order. If that's the case, is it possible then that the judge can now hold Sheriff Joe Arpaio in contempt?
Absolutely. And not only that, but now you've got the officer in a situation where he's got a Hobson's choice. Either he follows a court order or he follows his boss's order, and,
wow.
And he can risk losing his job. So at this point, they can, there's a lot of things that can happen here. An appeal can be taken of the criminal contempt order, but the judge can go further and hold further hearings and hold possibly Sheriff Arpaio in contempt, of course.
Damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Sylvia, for bringing us up to date on this. We certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Rick.